I had a picture-perfect life with Sarah. We had a beautiful house in the suburbs, solid careers, and a strong marriage that made others envious. My cousin Jake was practically family, always dropping by to help with repairs or join us for dinner. When Sarah told me she was pregnant after 3 years of trying, I was ecstatic. But when little Emma arrived, something felt off. She looked nothing like me, but had the same blue eyes and smile as Jake. Before I tell you how my entire family hid this devastating secret for years, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. Sarah and I met during our sophomore year at university. We were in the same economics class, and I fell for her the moment she challenged our professor on his outdated market theories. We dated for 3 years before I proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Michigan. The proposal wasn't anything fancy, just us on the beach at sunset, but Sarah said it was perfect. Our wedding was intimate but joyful, with both our families celebrating our union with genuine happiness. After graduation, I landed a job at a financial firm in Chicago, while Sarah pursued her passion for teaching elementary school. Her students adored her creative teaching methods, and she would come home with adorable drawings they had made for their favorite teacher. The first 3 years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We traveled to the Florida beaches during spring break and spent a week hiking through Yellowstone the following summer. When we saved enough for a down payment, we bought our first home in a quiet suburb. It was a modest 3-bedroom with a backyard perfect for barbecues and future children. We spent weekends painting walls, arranging furniture, and designing what would eventually become a nursery. We were building our dream brick by brick, moment by moment. My family had always been close-knit. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were mandatory, and my mother would cook enough Italian food to feed an army. My father, a retired construction worker, would always ask about my career and offer advice whether I wanted it or not. My younger sister Lisa would bring her latest boyfriend, and we would tease her mercilessly about her revolving door of relationships. Then there was Jake, my cousin and childhood best friend. We had grown up together in Chicago, spending summers catching baseballs and winters building snow forts. As adults, our bond remained strong. Jake had become a plumber with his own small business. He was perpetually single, claiming he was married to his work, but I knew it was because he had high standards. When I was swamped with financial reports, Jake would swing by to help Sarah with household repairs. They got along great, often chatting about movies and music while I finished up work calls. Jake became a fixture in our home, joining us for dinner several times a month and becoming the unofficial third member of our household. Sarah would light up when he arrived, and I was grateful that my wife and my best friend got along so well. I never once suspected there was anything more to their friendship than what I saw on the surface. The trouble began when my boss assigned me to lead a major project for a new client. The hours were brutal, with late nights and weekend work becoming my new normal. I would leave before sunrise and return long after Sarah had gone to bed. The physical distance created an emotional one as well, with our conversations becoming shorter and more practical. I first noticed something was off when Sarah began constantly checking her phone, smiling at text messages but quickly hiding the screen when I walked by. When I asked who she was texting, she would shrug it off as just a coworker sharing classroom stories. One Friday, she told me she was going out with teachers from her school for happy hour. I called her around 9 to check in, but she didn't answer. When she came home after midnight with flushed cheeks and disheveled hair, she claimed they had gone dancing. My suspicions grew when I came home early one Tuesday to surprise Sarah with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. As I pulled into our driveway, I saw Jake's truck pulling away. When I asked Sarah about it, she casually mentioned he had stopped by to fix the kitchen faucet that had been leaking. The faucet worked perfectly fine when I checked it. Family dinners became increasingly awkward. My mother would avoid mentioning Jake when I was present, changing the subject whenever his name came up. My sister Lisa would give me strange looks filled with pity. Even my stoic father seemed uncomfortable around me, patting my shoulder more often than usual and asking how things were at home in a tone that suggested he already knew the answer. After months of trying to conceive, Sarah announced her pregnancy on a Sunday morning. She presented me with a tiny pair of baby shoes wrapped in blue tissue paper. I was overcome with joy, hugging her tightly, as tears streamed down my face. I immediately threw myself into preparations, converting our spare room into a nursery with pale yellow walls and a hand-painted mural of forest animals. I read every parenting book I could find, determined to be the best father possible. I attended all the doctor's appointments, marveling at each ultrasound. and recording the sound of our baby's heartbeat. I downloaded pregnancy apps that compared our baby's size to various fruits and vegetables, excitedly announcing to Sarah when our child had grown from the size of a blueberry to a raspberry. While I was ecstatic, my family's reactions seemed muted. My mother, who had been asking about grandchildren since our wedding day, offered a tight smile and brief congratulations. My sister avoided eye contact, suddenly becoming interested in her phone whenever the baby was mentioned. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably and changed the subject to baseball statistics. Jake, who had been a constant presence in our home, suddenly became scarce. He missed 3 Sunday dinners in a row, citing emergency plumbing jobs and prior commitments. When he did show up, he would engage with everyone except me, avoiding any conversation about the baby. I chalked it up to discomfort around pregnancy talk, never imagining the real reason for his distance. Sarah began taking mysterious phone calls, stepping outside, or into another room to speak in hushed tones. When I asked who had called, she would dismiss it as work-related or a friend needing advice. Several times I entered a room to find her quickly ending a call, her expression guilty as she claimed it was nothing important. I wanted to trust my wife, but doubt had planted its seed and was beginning to grow. 9 months later, after 9 hours of labor, Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby girl we named Emma. The delivery room was a blur of emotions as the nurses placed our daughter in my arms. Looking down at her tiny face, I felt an overwhelming rush of love, but also a nagging sense that something wasn't quite right. Emma had a full head of dark hair like mine, but her facial features didn't resemble me at all. As the days passed and Emma's features became more defined, my unease grew. She had striking blue eyes, nothing like my brown ones or Sarah's hazel. My mother commented that Emma had the family smile, but when I looked through old baby photos, only Jake shared that distinctive grin. At a family gathering, my aunt remarked how much Emma looked like Jake as a baby, quickly falling silent after a sharp glance from my mother. The comments continued over the following months. She has Jake's eyes, or that smile is all Jake. Each observation was like a knife twisting in my gut. Sarah would quickly change the subject, holding Emma closer, as if to shield her from my increasingly suspicious gaze. Doubt consumed me. I lost sleep watching Sarah and Emma searching for resemblances to myself and finding none. One afternoon, while Sarah napped with Emma, I drove to a pharmacy 20 miles away where nobody would recognize me. With shaking hands, I purchased a paternity test, hiding it in my briefcase until I could collect a sample without Sarah knowing. 3 days later, the results arrived via email. I sat alone in my car in the office parking lot, unable to open the message for nearly an hour. When I finally clicked the clinical language, confirmed my worst fears. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. I was not Emma's father. The drive home was a blur. I confronted Sarah the moment I walked through the door, showing her the test results on my phone. Her face crumpled as she collapsed onto the couch, not even attempting to deny it. Through sobs, she confessed to an 8-month affair with Jake. They had fallen in love but were afraid of hurting me and dividing the family. When she discovered she was pregnant, they had panicked, and Sarah convinced Jake that passing the baby off as mine was the only solution. The betrayal cut deeper when Sarah revealed that Jake had wanted to come clean before Emma was born, but my parents had intervened. They knew about the affair, about the baby's parentage, and had counseled silence to preserve family harmony. My sister knew my aunts, and uncles knew even my father, who had clapped me on the back and congratulated me on becoming a dad, knew I was raising another man's child. That night I drove to my parents' house, bursting into their quiet evening with fury and pain. My mother admitted everything, tears streaming down her face as she claimed they only wanted to protect me from hurt. "We thought it would be better this way," she said. "The baby needed a stable home, and we didn't want to lose you from family gatherings." My father, usually stoic, broke down and admitted they had made a terrible mistake. "We thought it would blow over," he explained. "That Sarah would end things with Jake, and you would never need to know." My entire world collapsed around me. Every memory was now tainted, every family moment revealed as a charade. The people I trusted most had conspired to fool me in the cruelest way possible. My wife had betrayed me with my cousin and my family, had chosen to protect the betrayers rather than tell me the truth. In the weeks that followed, I existed in a fog of despair. I couldn't sleep, eat, or function at work. I took a leave of absence, claiming a family emergency, which wasn't far from the truth. Sarah moved into the guest room, her tearful apologies falling on deaf ears. She begged for forgiveness, insisting that she truly loved me and that her affair with Jake had been a terrible mistake born of loneliness during my long work hours. Jake was conspicuously absent, avoiding all confrontation. He sent a brief text message. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." His cowardice only fueled my anger. The cousin who had been like a brother to me couldn't even face me after destroying my life. The final blow came during a family intervention at my parents' house. They had gathered everyone, including Sarah, to convince me to work things out for the sake of the family. My mother suggested I forgive Sarah and raise Emma as my own, arguing that biology shouldn't matter when it came to love. My father spoke about family loyalty and keeping problems in-house. My sister Lisa, who had known all along, had the audacity to say that time would heal all wounds. "Emma needs a father," my mother pleaded, "and the family needs to stay together." That was when I realized they weren't concerned about my pain or the betrayal I had suffered. They cared only about appearances, about maintaining the illusion of a perfect family, regardless of the cost to me. Their priority was keeping the secret contained, not helping me heal. I made my decision that night. I contacted a divorce attorney the next morning and moved into a hotel. Sarah called repeatedly, alternating between tears and anger, accusations and apologies. Jake finally attempted to meet me, showing up at my hotel, but I refused to see him. My parents sent daily messages begging me to reconsider, to think about Emma, to remember that blood is thicker than water. But whose blood? Certainly not mine, in Emma's veins. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Sarah didn't contest anything, perhaps out of guilt. I sold my share of our house to her at a fair price, wanting nothing more than to sever all ties. I resigned from my position at the financial firm, unable to face the pitying looks from colleagues who had heard rumors of my situation. With nothing holding me to Chicago, I packed what little I wanted to keep and moved to Seattle. I chose it for its distance from my past, and because it was known for its tech industry where my financial background could be valuable. The first months were the hardest. I rented a small apartment downtown, isolated and adrift without the family connections that had defined my entire life. Depression became my constant companion. I would wake up reaching for Sarah, only to find cold sheets and the crushing memory of betrayal. I lost weight, slept poorly, and avoided making new connections. Trust seemed impossible after what I had experienced. The therapist I eventually consulted diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder from the emotional betrayal. She explained that what I was experiencing was similar to grief, not just for my marriage, but for the loss of my entire support system and identity. 6 months into my self-imposed exile, I took a position at a small financial technology startup. The work was challenging and all-consuming, which is exactly what I needed. I poured myself into learning new skills, staying at the office until midnight, and working weekends, not because I had to, but because going home to my empty apartment was too painful. The turning point came unexpectedly. During a brainstorming session, we were discussing pain points for customers managing finances during major life transitions. I found myself sharing anonymously some of the financial complications from my own divorce. My insights led to the development of a new software feature for users navigating similar situations. For the first time since the betrayal, my pain had produced something positive. This small victory sparked something in me. I began developing a comprehensive personal finance management system specifically designed for people going through divorce, death of a spouse, or other major life transitions. My boss recognized the potential and gave me resources to develop it further. When we presented it to investors, they immediately saw its market value. Within 18 months, my application became the startup's flagship product. 2 years later, we secured major venture capital funding, and I was promoted to Chief Product Officer. The long hours and single-minded focus had paid off professionally, even as I continued to struggle personally. Therapy became a weekly commitment. I learned to process my anger, to understand that my worth wasn't determined by Sarah's choices or my family's betrayal. Slowly, I began to build a new social circle, joining a hiking club and a community basketball league. I made friends who knew nothing of my past, people who saw me as I was now, not as the man who had been so thoroughly deceived. 5 years after leaving Chicago, my life had transformed completely. Our startup had been acquired by a major financial services company for millions. I had purchased a modern house overlooking Puget Sound, invested wisely, and established myself as a thought leader in financial technology. Fortune magazine included me in their 40 under 40 list, with a profile detailing my innovative approach to financial management during life transitions. The irony that my greatest professional success had grown from my deepest personal pain wasn't lost on me. The email from Lisa arrived on an ordinary Tuesday. "I saw your interview in Fortune," she wrote. "I'm so proud of you, Cale. Mom and Dad miss you terribly. We all do. Please call when you're ready." I deleted it without responding, but more messages followed. Jake sent a lengthy email apologizing for his unforgivable betrayal and detailing how his relationship with Sarah had fallen apart soon after I left. He was now married to someone else and wanted to make amends if that was ever possible. The most surprising contact came from Sarah. She sent a certified letter explaining that Emma, now 6 years old, had been asking questions about me. Sarah and Jake had separated when Emma was 2, their relationship poisoned by guilt and mistrust. Sarah was now a single mother struggling financially, despite child support from Jake. She included a recent photo of Emma, whose resemblance to Jake was unmistakable. "She knows you're not her biological father," Sarah wrote, "but I've told her about the kind man who was there when she was born, who painted her nursery and sang to her at night. She would like to meet you someday, but I understand if that's not something you can do." I studied the photograph for hours, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. I had loved this child. Before she was born, had prepared for her arrival with such joy. Her existence had shattered my world, yet she was innocent in all of this. I placed the photo in my desk drawer, unable to decide how I felt. A week later, I received a call from my father. My mother had been diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. The prognosis was poor, with doctors giving her only months to live. Her last wish, he said, with a voice cracking with emotion, was to see me one more time. For days I wrestled with conflicting emotions. The anger and sense of betrayal remained, but mixed now with the knowledge that my time to make peace was limited. I consulted my therapist, who advised me to consider what I would regret more: seeing my mother one last time, despite the pain she had caused, or missing the opportunity to say goodbye. I flew to Chicago the following weekend. The hospital room was quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of machines. My mother, once vibrant and forceful, looked small and fragile against the white sheets. When she saw me, tears flowed freely down her hollow cheeks. We talked for hours about everything except what had happened. Only as I was preparing to leave did she finally address it. "I made a terrible mistake," she whispered, clutching my hand with surprising strength. "I thought I was protecting the family, but I was only protecting a lie. I should have told you immediately. Can you ever forgive me?" I couldn't give her the absolution she sought, but I did promise to stay in touch and return before the end. It was the most I could offer, and she accepted it with grateful tears. The next day, I agreed to meet Jake at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. He had aged considerably, stress lines etched deeply around his eyes. He attempted to explain his actions, how his friendship with Sarah had evolved during my long work hours, how they had both been weak and selfish. I listened in silence, neither accepting his apologies nor rejecting them outright. "I don't want your friendship back," I finally said. "That's gone forever. But Emma deserves a father who is present and responsible. Be that for her, and maybe someday I can look at you without feeling disgust." He nodded, accepting my terms with the relief of a man who had expected far worse. Meeting Emma was the hardest decision. I agreed to a brief introduction at a park, with both Sarah and Jake present, to explain who I was: a family friend from long ago. Emma had Sarah's nose and Jake's eyes, but her personality seemed entirely her own: curious, thoughtful, and surprisingly mature for a 6-year-old. She showed me her favorite climbing structure and asked if I liked chocolate ice cream as much as she did. I didn't feel the instant connection I had anticipated, neither love nor resentment, just a quiet acknowledgement that this child existed in the world partially because of choices made by people I had once loved. Before leaving, I told Sarah I would establish a college fund for Emma, not out of obligation, but because education had always been important to me. I made it clear this didn't mean I was re-entering their lives in any meaningful way. Over the following months, I established careful boundaries with my family. I attended my mother's funeral 3 months later, standing slightly apart from the main family group. I accepted occasional calls from my father and Lisa, but kept conversations brief and impersonal. I sent Emma birthday and Christmas gifts anonymously through a third party. 2 years after reconnecting with my family on my terms, I met Natalie at a charity gala in Seattle. She was an architect specializing in sustainable design, passionate about her work, and refreshingly direct about her interest in me. Our relationship progressed cautiously with me, revealing my past in small, manageable pieces. Her patience and understanding helped me lower my carefully constructed walls. With Natalie's encouragement, I established a foundation that provided psychological support for victims of family betrayal. We funded research into the long-term effects of such trauma and created support groups nationwide. I began writing an anonymous blog sharing my experience, which unexpectedly connected me with thousands of others who had survived similar situations. My relationship with my original family remained complicated. I never fully trusted them again, but I did find a way to include them in my life on my terms. My father visited Seattle twice a year. Lisa and I exchanged regular emails. Jake remained on the periphery, our interactions limited to necessary communications about Emma's education fund. Sarah eventually remarried and moved to Colorado. Emma, now a teenager, occasionally sent me thank you notes for the gifts and later emails about her college plans. I responded with encouraging but appropriate distance, a friendly adult figure rather than a parental one. Throughout this journey of rebuilding, I discovered that the greatest healing came not from forgiving those who had betrayed me, but from reclaiming my power to define my own life and relationships. I learned that family isn't just about blood or obligation. It's about honesty, respect, and mutual support. The happiness I found with Natalie wasn't built on the ashes of my past, but on the strength I had developed by surviving it. We created our own family on a foundation of complete transparency, even when the truth was difficult or uncomfortable. The trust we built was stronger, because we both knew how precious and fragile it could be. Have you ever experienced betrayal from family members? How did you rebuild your life afterward? Share your story in the comments below. If my journey has helped you feel less alone in yours, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. When you share this with others who might be struggling with similar pain, you create a chain of healing that reaches further than you might imagine. Thank you for listening to my story. Whatever difficulties you may be facing, remember that you deserve happiness and peace on your own terms. The family you choose can be more meaningful than the one you were born into, and the life you rebuild can be more authentic than the one that was broken.